Nobody and nothing will affect you again. Nobody and nothing will affect you again. Inspired by Evy Poumpouras, there comes a point in your life when you must decide that nothing and nobody will ever shake your peace again. You start realizing that your power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from controlling yourself. Emotional control is the highest form of strength. It's when you can stand calm in chaos, unbothered by noise, untouched by negativity. You no longer react to every opinion or attack, because you understand that people project their own pain, and their words only have power if you let them. You stop chasing approval, because your worth doesn't depend on anyone's validation. It's defined by who you are when no one is watching. You begin to build inner fortitude, the kind of strength that turns pain into wisdom and adversity into armor. You protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You learn to guard your energy, your focus, and your space, setting boundaries not out of anger, but out of self-respect. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. And finally, you rise above reaction. Because power is not in how loud you can respond, but in how calmly you can walk away. When you master yourself, when you choose peace over pride, calm over chaos, and self-respect over emotion, that's when you truly become untouchable. From that moment on, nobody and nothing will affect you again. Nobody and nothing will affect you again. Inspired by Evy Poumpouras, there comes a moment in life when you must draw a line and decide. From this point on, nobody and nothing will affect me again. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. It's when you realize that peace is your greatest power, and protecting it is your highest form of maturity. You stop letting the world shake you, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You begin to see that emotional control is the foundation of true strength. The strongest person in the room is never the loudest, the angriest, or the most reactive. It's the one who remains calm when everyone else is losing themselves. As Evy Poumpouras teaches, power isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering your reaction to them. When you can stay composed while being provoked, when you can stay peaceful in the presence of chaos, you become untouchable. You start to understand that people who try to hurt you are often fighting their own silent battles. Their anger, their envy, their criticism, none of it has anything to do with you. It's a reflection of who they are, not who you are. The moment you stop taking things personally, the moment you stop reacting to every insult or every misunderstanding, is the moment you reclaim your emotional freedom. You realize that peace doesn't mean avoiding problems. It means facing them without losing your balance. You no longer waste your energy proving your worth to those who are determined not to see it. You simply rise, silently, and let your actions speak louder than your defense ever could. When you stop depending on others for validation, something beautiful happens. You become unbreakable. People's opinions no longer define your value. Compliments don't inflate you, and criticism doesn't destroy you. You begin to live from the inside out instead of the outside in. That's when your energy becomes magnetic and your spirit becomes still. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't even listen to understand. You stop fighting for a seat at tables where you were never meant to belong. You realize that self-respect sometimes means walking away, not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to prioritize your peace. Inner fortitude is built through pressure. Every heartbreak, betrayal, or disappointment becomes training ground for resilience. You start to thank the pain, not resent it, because it taught you how to survive without depending on anyone to fix you. You learn to stand tall, even when things fall apart. You become the kind of person who doesn't need to shout to be heard or fight to be seen. You simply exist in strength and silence, and that presence alone speaks volumes. Evy Poumpouras once said that emotional intelligence is power, and she's right. You can't control others, but you can always control how you choose to respond. That control is what separates the strong from the reactive, the wise from the wounded. Protecting your mental energy becomes a daily discipline. You stop giving everyone access to your emotions. Not everyone deserves a reaction. Not everyone deserves an explanation. You start treating your peace like sacred ground. Only those who honor it are allowed near it. The more you guard your focus, the clearer your vision becomes. The more you detach from drama, the stronger your intuition grows. You no longer chase chaos, you crave calm. You stop arguing to prove your point because peace is more valuable than being right. You understand that silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. The loudest person in the room often holds the least power. The quiet one knows exactly when to speak and when to walk away. When you operate from self-respect rather than emotion, everything changes. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding intentionally. You realize that your calmness is your weapon, and your stillness is your strength. You no longer let temporary emotions cause permanent damage. You understand that maturity is learning to respond with grace, even when you're hurt, to smile even when you're misunderstood, and to keep moving forward even when others try to pull you back. The person who can stay kind, composed, and confident when others expect them to break. That's the most powerful person alive. From this place of awareness, you evolve. You no longer measure peace by the absence of problems, but by the ability to remain centered through them. You stop expecting others to change and focus on changing your own response. You learn to breathe before reacting, to observe before speaking, and to think before feeling. That's mastery. That's freedom. That's the essence of emotional intelligence. The world will still throw challenges, people will still test you, and life will still be unpredictable, but your inner world will no longer be shaken by the noise outside. So, when you say, "Nobody and nothing will affect me again," it's not a declaration of coldness. It's a declaration of control. It means you've decided to live from strength, not sensitivity. It means you've chosen peace over pride, clarity over chaos, and wisdom over reaction. You are no longer living as a mirror to others' emotions, but as a master of your own. The storms may come, the winds may roar, but you will stand still, unbothered, unshaken, unbreakable. Because once you learn to master yourself, nothing and nobody can ever master you again. That's when you truly become powerful. That's when you finally become free. Protect your peace. How to stay untouchable in a world that tries to shake you. There comes a time when protecting your peace becomes more important than proving your point. You start realizing that not everything deserves your attention, not every argument deserves your reply, and not everyone deserves access to your emotions. Peace is not found by escaping life's storms. It's built by learning to stand calm in the middle of them. The most powerful version of you is not the one who reacts, but the one who observes, understands, and chooses silence. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It's survival. It's the art of staying centered in a world that profits off distraction, drama, and division. When you protect your peace, you protect your mind, your focus, and your purpose. You begin to understand that not everyone around you is meant to have full access to your energy. Some people come into your life to drain it, others to distract it, and only a few to inspire it. The more you grow, the smaller your circle becomes, not out of arrogance, but alignment. You stop chasing people who make you feel unseen. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop begging to be included where your presence is not valued. Protecting your peace means learning to walk away without anger, to distance yourself without drama, and to detach without hate. It means realizing that closure doesn't come from conversations, but from acceptance. You learn that silence is one of the most powerful responses. When you stop feeding negativity with reaction, it starves. When you stop defending yourself to people who twist your truth, it liberates you. You don't have to respond to every lie or correct every assumption. Let your results speak. Let your calmness confuse them. Let your peace intimidate those who thrive on chaos. Because your peace is your power, and nothing scares a toxic person more than someone they can no longer trigger. Protecting your peace means mastering the art of emotional distance. You care, but you don't carry. You feel, but you don't fold. You listen, but you don't absorb everyone's noise. Boundaries become your best protection. You begin to see them not as walls but as filters. They keep out what drains you and allow in what strengthens you. You learn to say no without guilt, to rest without apology, and to choose solitude over shallow company. You realize that being alone is not lonely when you're at peace with yourself. The loudest voices around you fade when you become content in your own silence. Protecting your peace means no longer seeking temporary comfort from toxic people. You stop running back to what hurt you just because it's familiar. You stop explaining your standards to those who refuse to meet them. You let go, not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about yourself. The more you protect your peace, the more clearly you hear your intuition. You begin to move differently, slower, wiser, calmer. You no longer chase validation or revenge. You chase understanding. You learn to observe your emotions without letting them control you. Someone's attitude no longer dictates your day. Someone's words no longer shake your spirit. You realize that every reaction is a choice, and when you choose calmness, you choose power. The person who can stay composed in chaos is the person who controls the room. That's the level of peace you aim for. Not the one that hides from storms, but the one that dances in rain without losing balance. Evy Poumpouras often speaks about strength rooted in composure. That true confidence isn't loud. It's quiet, measured, and deliberate. It's about being so grounded in who you are that external chaos can't move you. That's what protecting your peace truly means. It's not about isolation, it's about elevation. You rise above the noise instead of wrestling with it. You stop engaging in meaningless battles because you've learned that your energy is too precious to waste on small minds and shallow hearts. You understand that the moment you react, you give others control over your emotional state. So, you choose stillness, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Every day you face choices to argue or to walk away, to stress or to surrender, to hold on or to let go. And each time you choose peace, you strengthen your spirit. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop seeking revenge and start seeking release. You begin to realize that peace doesn't mean life gets easier. It means you get stronger. The world around you will still test you. People will still provoke you, and life will still challenge you, but you will respond differently. You will no longer give your energy to things that don't grow you. You will stop letting small minds pull you into big battles. You will walk away not because you're defeated, but because you're finally free. Protecting your peace is a lifelong practice. It requires daily discipline, to breathe before reacting, to think before speaking, and to pause before engaging. It means checking in with yourself more than you check your phone. It means reminding yourself that you deserve calmness, not chaos. Peace is not something you find, it's something you build, moment by moment, boundary by boundary, choice by choice. And once you've tasted true peace, chaos becomes intolerable. You start seeing peace as your most valuable possession, not something you're willing to trade for momentary satisfaction or emotional reaction. So from this moment on, make yourself a promise. Protect your peace like your life depends on it, because it does. Protect it from gossip, from negativity, from overthinking, from comparison, and from anyone who tries to dim your light. Protect it from your past, from your fears, and from the urge to prove yourself to those who never believed in you. Protect it until it becomes your default state. Because when you protect your peace, you protect your power. You stop being a victim of life's noise and become the master of your inner world. And once you reach that point, that still, silent, steady place within yourself, nothing and nobody will ever be able to affect you again. Emotional control, the secret to becoming untouchable. There's one skill that separates the powerful from the powerless, the calm from the chaotic, the wise from the reactive. And that is emotional control. When you learn to master your emotions instead of letting them master you, life begins to change in ways you never imagined. Most people live as slaves to their feelings. They get angry, and they react. They feel hurt, and they lash out. They feel rejected, and they chase validation. But true strength, as Evy Poumpouras teaches, comes when you pause before you respond. When you decide that your emotions will serve you, not sabotage you. Emotional control doesn't mean you suppress your feelings. It means you understand them. You process them privately and respond publicly with power. When you have emotional control, you stop being predictable. People can't play with your buttons when they no longer know what triggers you. You take away their power by refusing to react. You learn that silence is not weakness, it's strategy. You become aware of your triggers, not to hide from them, but to master them. Because the moment you let anger, fear, jealousy, or insecurity make your decisions, you lose control of your life. But when you stay calm under pressure, when you can hold your peace while the world tries to provoke you, that's when you become truly powerful. The goal is not to stop feeling. The goal is to stop letting your feelings dictate your direction. People will test you. Life will challenge you. You will face moments where everything inside you screams to react, to argue, to defend, to attack. But power is in restraint. It's in saying, I will not let this moment define me. Emotional control is not about ego, it's about discipline. It's knowing when to speak and when silence will say more. It's understanding that your calmness is not a sign of weakness, but evidence of mastery. When you're calm, you see clearly. When you're calm, you think strategically. When you're calm, you make decisions that move you forward instead of keeping you stuck. Evy Poumpouras once said, if you can't control your emotions, someone else will. And that's the truth. The world is full of people who thrive on reactions. They push, they provoke, they manipulate, because they know most people will break. But when you don't break, when you smile instead of snapping, when you walk away instead of engaging, when you respond with logic instead of emotion, you win. You stop letting people write your story with their behavior. You reclaim authorship over your peace. The moment you stop reacting to every insult or situation, you step into real power. Because power is not loud, it's silent, steady, and self-assured. Emotional control also protects your energy. Every emotional outburst costs energy that could have been invested in your growth. Every reaction steals time that could have been used for healing or building. Every argument distracts you from your purpose. You can't move forward while constantly reacting backward. You begin to realize that not every situation needs your input, and not every person deserves your explanation. Sometimes your silence says everything. Sometimes your calmness makes the loudest statement. When you master emotional control, you stop attending every battle you're invited to. You learn to pick peace over pride, composure over confrontation, and maturity over impulse. It's not easy. It takes awareness, practice, and discipline. Emotional control starts with observation. Before reacting, you pause and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Does this move me forward or set me back? You start catching yourself before you spiral. You breathe before you respond. You detach from the need to win arguments and focus instead on winning your inner balance. You realize that walking away is not losing, it's leading. It's choosing peace when chaos calls your name. It's deciding that your calmness matters more than being right. And when you operate from that mindset, you stop being reactive and start being intentional. As your emotional control grows, so does your confidence. You no longer fear situations that once triggered you because you know you can handle them. You don't overthink every word or overanalyze every look. You no longer depend on others to regulate your feelings. You regulate them yourself. You become your own peacekeeper. You walk into rooms that used to intimidate you, and you carry stillness instead of anxiety. People start to notice your presence because calm confidence radiates louder than chaos. The more composed you are, the more control you have. Not over others, but over yourself. You also begin to see that emotional control changes relationships. When you stop reacting emotionally, you stop feeding toxic dynamics. You stop being baited into drama. You start communicating from a place of calm instead of pain. You listen more and argue less. You understand before judging. You stop personalizing other people's behavior and start realizing that everyone operates from their own wounds. This understanding allows you to forgive faster, detach sooner, and move on lighter. You no longer carry resentment because you understand that holding on to anger only burns your own peace. Emotional control doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. In a world that's constantly trying to get a reaction out of you, your greatest rebellion is to stay calm. The moment you realize that peace is power, you stop handing that power away. You stop letting temporary emotions cause permanent damage. You stop letting someone's bad mood ruin your good day. You stop letting opinions shake your confidence. You learn to stand still in storms that once broke you. Because emotional control doesn't mean life gets easier. It means you get stronger. You begin to move differently. You choose understanding over anger, silence over chaos, and peace over reaction. So, from today forward, promise yourself this: nothing and nobody will control your emotions again. You will master your feelings, not deny them. You will breathe before you react. You will choose calmness when chaos calls. You will respond with strength instead of sensitivity. Because when you own your emotions, you own your life. Emotional control is the quiet armor that keeps you strong, steady, and unshaken in a world that thrives on reaction. And when you master that, when you become calm in the storm, peaceful under pressure, and centered no matter what comes, then truly, nobody and nothing will ever be able to affect you again. Detach from validation. The freedom of not needing anyone's approval. There comes a turning point in life when you finally realize that seeking validation from others is a never-ending prison. You start to see how much of your peace you've traded just to be liked, accepted, or understood by people who were never meant to define your worth. You've smiled when you wanted to speak. You've agreed when your soul screamed no, and you've shrunk yourself just to fit into spaces that didn't deserve you. But then something shifts. You wake up to the truth that freedom begins when you no longer need permission to be yourself. That's the moment you stop living for applause and start living from alignment. You no longer chase approval because you know who you are, and you don't need anyone else to confirm it. Detaching from validation doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop depending on them for identity. It's the realization that people's opinions are temporary, emotional, and inconsistent. One moment they praise you, the next they criticize you. Not because you've changed, but because their perception did, and you can't live your life tied to the instability of other people's moods. As Evy Poumpouras often teaches, confidence that depends on approval isn't confidence. It's dependency. True confidence comes from within, from knowing your values, your worth, and your mission. When you operate from that inner knowing, rejection no longer breaks you, and praise no longer defines you. The truth is, people will judge you no matter what you do. If you stay silent, they'll say you're weak. If you speak, they'll say you're arrogant. If you succeed, they'll say you've changed. If you fail, they'll say they knew it. You can't win the game of external approval because the rules are constantly changing. The only way to win is to stop playing. You stop explaining your heart to those who only listen to reply. You stop proving your worth to those who are blind to value. You stop performing for people who can't see your purpose. That's when life starts to feel lighter, because you're no longer carrying the weight of everyone's expectations. You begin to realize that the opinions of others are just echoes of their own fears and limitations. When someone doubts you, they're projecting their own insecurities. When someone mocks your dreams, they're confessing the size of their vision. Their criticism often says more about them than it does about you. So you stop taking it personally. You start listening less to noise and more to your intuition. You start validating yourself through discipline, not distraction. You find strength in silence, pride in progress, and peace in purpose. Because once you know your worth, you stop negotiating it. You stop bending to be accepted and start standing to be respected. Detaching from validation also means you accept that not everyone will understand your path. And that's okay. Your vision wasn't given to them, it was given to you. You stop expecting everyone to see what you see, because most people can only understand from their level of awareness. You learn to walk alone without feeling lonely. You stop seeking constant reassurance and start trusting your inner compass. You don't need everyone to agree with your direction when you're walking in purpose. The right people will find you by your energy, not your explanation. You attract peace when you no longer chase approval. And here's the irony: the moment you stop trying to please everyone, you actually become more respected. People may not always like you, but they'll feel your authenticity. They'll sense your self-assurance. They'll recognize that you move differently, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. Because confidence isn't about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about knowing you don't need to compete with anyone at all. When you no longer rely on external approval, you become free. Free from comparison, from competition, from the need to prove. You realize that real validation doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being consistent with who you are. Evy Poumpouras often emphasizes that true strength comes from emotional independence, that place where your peace is not at the mercy of anyone else's opinion. You no longer let rejection rewrite your identity or criticism shake your direction. You take feedback with wisdom, not sensitivity. You learn to separate constructive insight from destructive noise. You stop living in reaction and start living in intention. When people no longer have emotional control over you, you become untouchable. Their opinions become background static, and you move forward with quiet confidence. Detaching from validation also transforms how you love and connect. You no longer beg for love that's conditional or attention that's inconsistent. You stop bending your boundaries just to be accepted. You realize that love that requires you to lose yourself is not love. It's control. So you love from fullness, not from fear. You show up authentically, not strategically. You stop apologizing for being too much for people who were never enough for you. You begin to understand that the right people will never make you question your worth. They will see you, value you, and respect your boundaries without needing explanation. As you detach, you also find more peace in solitude. You start enjoying your own company. You realize that quiet isn't loneliness, it's clarity. You use that silence to reconnect with yourself, to hear your own thoughts, and to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You stop measuring your progress by applause and start measuring it by peace. You stop chasing followers and start chasing fulfillment. You stop trying to fit in and start focusing on standing out, because fitting in is comfort, standing out is courage, and courage is what freedom is built on. So, from this moment forward, remind yourself, you don't need validation to be valuable. You don't need permission to be powerful. You don't need applause to be enough. Detach from their opinions, detach from their expectations, detach from their version of you, and rise into your own. When you stop living for others' approval, you start living for your purpose. That's when you become free, fearless, and fully yourself. And once you reach that point, nothing and nobody can ever affect you again. Because your worth is no longer up for debate. You've already decided it. Build inner fortitude, strength that can't be broken. There comes a time in your life when you stop wishing for easy days and start building strength for the hard ones. You begin to realize that true power doesn't come from avoiding pain, but from surviving it. Inner fortitude, the kind that Evy Poumpouras speaks about, is not built in comfort, it's built in fire. It's born in moments when life tests your patience, your faith, your limits, and your will to keep going. Strength isn't given to you, it's forged within you. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every setback has been shaping you, not breaking you. You start to understand that the storm you feared was actually training you to handle bigger skies. Because inner fortitude is the quiet courage to keep moving forward when everything in you wants to quit. When you build inner fortitude, you stop collapsing every time life hits hard. You stop expecting things to be fair, and instead, you become prepared. You stop seeing obstacles as punishment and start seeing them as preparation. Every challenge becomes an invitation to rise. You realize that resilience isn't about pretending you're fine, it's about refusing to stay down. You might bend, but you don't break. You might cry, but you don't quit. The difference between weak and strong isn't pain, it's perseverance. The weak stop because it hurts. The strong keep going because it matters. When you develop that inner backbone, you stop being controlled by circumstances. You learn that the most unshakable people are those who've been shaken the most and refuse to fall apart. Evy Poumpouras often talks about composure under pressure. The idea that true strength isn't loud or aggressive, but calm and focused. When life throws chaos at you, you no longer panic, you pause, you breathe, you assess, you act with intention instead of emotion. You start realizing that reacting gives your power away, but responding gives your strength purpose. You don't fight battles fueled by ego. You fight the ones that matter. You don't waste energy proving yourself, you conserve it for building yourself. Inner fortitude teaches you that your greatest weapon is not anger or control. It's emotional discipline. The ability to face fear, failure, or pain and still choose peace is the essence of resilience. To build inner fortitude, you must face your weaknesses without shame. You stop pretending to be strong and start doing the work to become it. You don't numb your pain, you use it. You don't run from discomfort, you lean into it. You accept that pain is a teacher and growth is its lesson. The most powerful people you know didn't get there because life was kind to them. They got there because life tested them, and they refused to let those tests define them. You can't build muscle without resistance. You can't build resilience without struggle. Every time you face something that could break you but doesn't, you level up. You become more grounded, more mature, more mentally unshakable. Inner fortitude also means trusting the process even when it doesn't make sense. It's believing that the delays are not denials, that the pain has purpose, and that what's meant for you won't pass you by. You stop trying to rush your journey because you understand that pressure creates diamonds. When things fall apart, you don't see it as the end. You see it as the rearrangement for something better. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That shift alone changes everything. You begin to see challenges as character, building moments. You start to use your scars as reminders of survival, not symbols of defeat. Building inner fortitude also requires solitude. You learn to find strength in being alone. You stop needing constant validation, company, or distraction. You realize that stillness sharpens your strength. The quiet moments become your training ground, the place where you hear your own thoughts, reset your energy, and remember your purpose. You start building mental armor, not by isolating from the world, but by reconnecting with yourself. You begin to depend less on others to keep you going, and more on your inner discipline to keep you grounded. Strength is silent work. The habits, thoughts, and boundaries you build when no one is watching. As you grow stronger within, your reactions to life change. You no longer panic at uncertainty, because you've learned that you can handle it. You stop running from rejection, because you've learned that it redirection. You stop fearing failure because you know it's feedback. You no longer see adversity as the enemy. You see it as the architect of your evolution. The more you've been through, the calmer you become. You stop wasting energy on trying to control the uncontrollable. You start trusting yourself, your instincts, your resilience, your ability to adapt. You become your own anchor in the storm. That's what inner fortitude is. Being so centered within yourself that no external force can pull you off balance. Evy Poumpouras reminds us that toughness isn't about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent. You can feel deeply and still stay disciplined. You can be kind without being weak. You can forgive without allowing access. That's real power. Not to harden, but to strengthen. The goal is not to be cold, it's to be calm. Not to stop feeling, it's to stop folding. Inner fortitude is grace under fire, composure under chaos, and faith under fear. It's the quiet confidence that whispers, "I've been through worse and I'm still here." You become unstoppable not because life stopped being hard, but because you stopped being easily shaken. And eventually, something extraordinary happens. Peace becomes your default. You stop chasing calmness, you embody it. You move with quiet authority because you know that you've already survived what others couldn't. The opinions of others no longer weigh you down because your foundation is rooted in experience, not emotion. You walk through life grounded, steady, unbothered. Not because nothing affects you, but because nothing controls you. That's inner fortitude. That's what it means to be unbreakable. So, from this day forward, stop praying for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a meaningful one. Stop asking for lighter loads. Build stronger shoulders. Stop avoiding challenges. Meet them with courage. Because the goal isn't to live without storms. It's to learn to stand tall through them. Every scar you carry is proof of your survival. Every trial you've faced has been molding your spirit into something unstoppable. And when you finally understand that, when you realize your pain was preparation, you'll walk through life calm, confident, and unshaken. Because once you build inner fortitude, nobody and nothing will ever be able to break you again.